It's a pleasure now to introduce someone who has advocated very strongly for stem cell research, and that's Leeza Gibbons. I'd like to ask you, who doesn't know Leeza Gibbons? Okay, no need for introductions. Leeza's a journalist, person that raises money to support stem cell research. She herself has gone through troubles with her mother, who died almost, I think, 3 years ago this May, and from Alzheimer's disease, and a dreadful disease that my own aunt died of. And I was one of her favorite nephews, and I would go and see her, and she'd say, "Who are you?" And you know, Leeza has really championed that cause. She was appointed to the Independent Citizens Oversight Committee of CIRM, and that's a lot of work, let me tell you. We really appreciate the work that the ICOC members do. And she also runs her own organization, Leeza's Place, which gives support to caregivers who are really important for looking after patients with Alzheimer's, but with so many other diseases as well. So, Leeza, it's great that you spent time with us today, and thanks a lot for coming.
Thank you. I really appreciate the introduction and appreciate your recognition of what I'm doing. I really want to throw that back out to every person in this room, and it's glorious to be in your presence today. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. I'm going to put this microphone right here. I love that you mentioned that we are on the eve of Mother's Day, because I stand here today really honoring the two most incredible women in my life, my mom and my grandmom, both of whom did die of Alzheimer's disease. And these are the women who helped inform my choices of becoming the kind of person that I want to be, evolving into the woman that they were. And so it's especially meaningful for me to share with you today on the eve of a day when we celebrate mothers and maternal energy. I, by the way, am almost as bad with slide advancement as I am at dancing, and if any of you saw Dancing with the Stars, you may have to help me with this today. It's like a coordination thing, I don't know, something didn't get the synapses in that for me. So you know a little bit about why I'm here, and when I pulled up and you see a CIRM Institute, that really struck all the pride emotion inside me, and it is a wonderful opportunity that I feel extremely blessed to have, to be a part of the work that CIRM is doing. The better question is, why are you here? Why'd you show up today? And I suspect, for many of you, it's frankly a kind of sucky reality. Maybe you love someone who is sick or dying from a chronic illness, a disease. Maybe it's you. Maybe you're part of an advocacy group and you're just over-waiting. You want to make sure that we get treatments and cures into clinics and into patients' lives faster. You want to be a part of the army of change that makes that happen. Yeah, me too. I want to talk today about how we get to start right here, right now, where we are today. Because we don't get to go back as much as we wish we could. We don't get to go back and come up with a new reason for how we got here. We can't create a new beginning. But we can start today together and write a new ending for where we're headed. We can start today and say, okay, we are co-authors in this next chapter. We're going to write this book together, and it's called The Future. And we have to name it and claim it and inspire each other to make sure that it arrives for each and every one of us that has our own personal reasons for hoping and wishing and dreaming that we could just get there faster. Not easy, right? It's not easy. First of all, when you try to change anything, there is that resistance, that pushback that comes with change, right? And then there's basic inertia, which is the enemy of all change, whether you're trying to lose 5 pounds or whether you're trying to find the cure for Huntington's disease. So we have to push harder than the change. Luckily, for most women anyway, change is something that we're very used to. We get it. We change our hair color, we change our minds, we change the oil in the car, we change husbands, whatever. But I think that one thing we have in common with the men in the change arena is we dream of changing the future. And when I was a young girl and playing with dolls and playing with Barbie dolls, my Barbie dolls weren't going on those goofy dates with Ken. And I wasn't all about that strapless black solo in the spotlight gown with the fishtail, although I really did want to look like Barbie in that dress. There was that. My Barbies weren't doing those things. My Barbies were running global companies, and they had spotlight on international stages because they were changing the world. End of story. That's what they were doing. And then I had reporter Barbies as well. I named them Jessica Savage and Barbara Walters, who were two of the coolest newswomen of the time. And my reporter Barbies were keeping track of and reporting the progress that I was making changing the world. So that's some pretty grandiose stuff, I recognize that. And I'm sure I won't live long enough for the therapy to help with that. But I think it's significant for our gathering today because that's what we're all doing. That's what we're all doing. We're believing in ourselves to change the world. I actually became a reporter, host, anchor, journalist, storyteller because of my mother. And there was one particular moment when I was in the 6th grade and I came home from school and I was terribly upset because we were having a talent show at school. And my friends were extraordinarily talented. And they were dancing and they were singing and playing violin and twirling baton. One girl was doing a hula hoop. She was talented. I had nothing. Nothing. So I come home and I'm in tears and I'm like, Mom, I'm a bad tap dancer and I can't play piano. I mean, I had nothing. So my mother did that thing that mothers do. She pulled something out of thin air and she said, honey, you shush up. You do have a talent. You're a storyteller. And she said to me, you're gonna go back and you're gonna be a part of that talent show and you're gonna stand there and you're gonna tell the story of your life. You're gonna tell the best story ever. Well, I believed her and I bought it. And I began to identify myself as a storyteller. And that's why I became a journalist. And I did not have any idea that the story that I would tell would be about my mother's decline and our family's struggle with Alzheimer's disease. You didn't know that your story would take you here today. And you probably wish you could have taken another exit on life's freeway and been in another room here on a Saturday morning. But my mom was remarkably courageous, steel magnolia, strong Southern woman, and she said to me, even in the early stages of her disease, honey, this is now your story. And so I want you to tell it, and I want you to use it, and I want you to make it count. And I think that all of you are here sharing your story, and it's the telling of those stories that will get us closer to the future that we're co-creating together. And I want us to all remember that we're not walking this path alone. Our army is fierce, and it's mighty. You just look to your left, and you turn, and you look to the person on your right. Everyone in this room, everyone watching us right now on the web. This is our army. These are our troops. These are the people who are in the foxholes with you. These are the people in the trenches with you. These are the people who are fiercely focused on winning along with you. And I think that's really important that we know we have the same goal. We want to alleviate human suffering. We want the cures. We want the treatments. We want to get there fast. This week was an astonishing week, and we got the remarkable news that the world's most wanted man had been captured and killed. Think about where you were when you heard the news that Osama bin Laden was dead. It's a moment that you will never forget. And we knew that it was historically significant. We knew that this was a game changer. And just like other moments in time, our first steps on the moon, the Kennedy assassination, the fall of the Berlin Wall, these are moments where we all recognized immediately something is different. And from this moment on, things will never be the same. So that's how I felt in 2004 when Proposition 71 was passed by California voters. Game changer, New Deal, something will never be the same. And as you'll recall, it was really extraordinary. 59% of the voters in California said, guess what? We're done with the old way of doing things. We want our state to be the home of the best science. We want the most aggressive research, and we don't want to wait for the federal government to make that happen for us. We want to make it happen ourselves. And so the Stem Cell Act, as it became known, amended the Constitution. We made a big, big change, all of us, because that's how we wanted it to be, a new deal. And I remember standing on a stage with Nancy Reagan and Michael J. Fox and a dozen or so incredible thought leaders and luminaries and scientists. And we were all emboldened at the time with this notion that there could be a mandate at the ballot box. The man of the hour was Bob Klein. Now, many of you in this room know Bob Klein. I see you at some of our meetings. Many of you know him because you helped in the beginning to get this proposition passed. Bob Klein's mind is an interesting thing, isn't it? It's like if you took legal savvy and business expertise and you took his genius and you took his sheer guts and you threw all that stuff in a Cuisinart. That's just a portion of how Bob's mind works. Bob is relentless, and he works tirelessly while his wife battles cancer and his son struggles with diabetes, and he has said goodbye to a parent with Alzheimer's disease. No one wants cures more than Bob Klein. But Bob, like the rest of you who are on this path, Bob's not blazing a trail for glory. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it for career advancement. In fact, the post as being the chair, the architect of Prop 71 and being the board chair for the ICOC probably closed the door on a lot of those things, frankly. But Bob and our board, we're all about opening doors. And so when you look at each of these phenomenal people on the board and you start peeling back layers, you find what Bob is: a husband, a father, a son who wants to make a difference for the people that he loves. And that's what all of you are doing. So Prop 71 created the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, $3 billion given out over 10 years. And what a remarkable set of dominoes that set off in the state of California and across the globe. I had no idea, as I stood there on that stage in 2004, that a few years later I would be appointed to the governing board, where I served with 29 of the most brilliant and passionate and interesting people I have ever known. And I had no idea that I would stand in awe of the staff at CIRM and of Alan Trounson, the president who leads that staff, and the way they protect that mission absolutely with the same kind of fierceness as a lioness does over her baby cubs. It's really beautiful. If you've been to our meetings, you know that it's a very diverse group, and we're not shy, and we're not afraid of taking each other on and debating an issue, and sometimes these debates go well into the night. That's what makes it work, and it has to work, because we have a mandate that we can't use more than 6% of the voter-approved funds for administrative reasons. So CIRM has got to be efficient, and it's got to work because we're working on behalf of you, and we're protecting your voice, and we're representing your interests. I really love being on the board. And I think people are getting used to having me there. It's been a couple of years now, but I have to show you when it was first announced that I had been appointed to the board. This was the picture that heralded my arrival. You just have to laugh that somebody on this lovely California stem cell report found a picture of me in the leather pants and the halter top on the stem cell board. Okay. It has been, so far, the most remarkable journey and the position of the highest honor, and I'm thrilled about it. But the truth be told, my head spins in these meetings. I mean, it spins with all the scientific details and the jargon and the budgets and the finance and the intellectual properties and the technologies and all of it, along with the academics and the industry leaders and the scientists. There are a few of us who are patient advocates, a few of us who are like you most closely, I would say. But my patient advocate colleagues have a superior knowledge of the intricacies of stem cell science. But I would put my passion and my hopes and my dedication right up there next to any of them, and I would put any of you right in the chair next to us, because we're all on the path to try and do the same thing. Now, my job is easy. Think like a patient, push as hard as I can, be as loud as I can when I think that my disease group needs more representation, and then go about the business of having an unreasonable expectation, because we all know those are the people who get things done. This is my mom. A year after I was appointed to the governing board of CIRM, Mom died of Alzheimer's disease, and we had watched her disappear for about a decade. So we'd had time to get ready for the fact that she was leaving, but how do you ever get ready? I really was not ready, and I thought, well, if I could just learn more and do more and get smarter and work faster and meet more people, I could search for answers and I could figure this out. I could try to find somebody who could help me figure this out. How many of you can relate to that feeling? You know, if I could just meet the right person. And so I used that energy, and I think it's great energy, by the way. I used it for years to numb my pain and to not be very present. I just buried myself in my over-busyness. Things were changing, and I really didn't want a part of it. I didn't want to hear of it. But I knew that change was ready for me, whether I was ready or not, at my grandmother's funeral, my mom's mom. And my mother had just been diagnosed with the same disease that took her mother's life. And my grandmother was in the casket, and my mother was looking into the face of her mother, and I was standing back here looking at my mom, and my children were standing back looking at me. And when there's disease in our families, we all have that feeling of, where am I, right? Where am I in the lineup? I knew at that moment that I was going to have to show up in my life in a big way. And that was the moment of change for me. But my mom was all about change, all about change. I mean, my mother loved storms, this change in the atmosphere, and she was not afraid of anything. She was just this strong-willed woman that was the core thing beneath that Southern veneer. My mom was simply the safest place that I have ever known, and she always had an answer. I guess my formative years were when I was about 6th and 7th grade. That's when a lot of changes are happening to our bodies and our minds, and we're trying to figure it out. So my 6th grade, 7th grade body wasn't really developing as fast as my friends. And so, once again, I was very upset and came home with my mom, "What's up?" My mother very quickly said, "Honey, don't you worry about it. What God's forgotten, we'll stuff with cotton. She just always had an answer and reminded me then and always that we are not victims of circumstance. We are creators of circumstance. But I do think when someone is sick in your family, it changes everything. It really helps you get clear on the person that you want to be. And I also think it's kind of easy to get lost along the way. And they say that a good friend is someone that when you get lost, a good friend is someone who will play your music back to you when you forget your song. And sometimes we do forget our songs. We forget our purpose, we forget our significance, we forget our strength. The music stops in our lives when someone is sick and dying. Everything seems to stop and not make sense anymore. But we're like birds in a way. We don't sing because we have an answer, we sing because we have a song. And the secret is to just keep singing. So we don't have an answer today for a lot of the diseases that are represented in this room, but we just keep singing. I spent the years after my mom got sick in this kind of inertia that had become my constant companion. My sister is the person who helped to play my song back to me. And when my mother died, it was my sister and I who went through all of her things, and we went through the storage unit. And we found every letter and every card and every picture, including the ones where she had cut out the face of my ex-husband, which I thought was very sweet of her. My mom kept everything, including those Barbies that I used for my big-time dreaming about changing the world. And my mom had journaled it all. And the things that I thought she would be most proud of, I'm sure she was, but it was the little things that she wrote about, you know, my determination, my strength, even how loudly I would slam the door in an argument because she said she's going to make it through life just fine. And those are the things that I write about with my kids. And I remember when I was pregnant with my first child, my daughter, and I have 2 sons, she goes, I hope that you get one just like you. And I did, just like it. But I think of my mom every time I eat a piece of chocolate because she loved her chocolate, and I think of her every time I take a load of clothes out of the dryer. It's something about the smell of the fabric softener. And I think of my mom every time there's a storm. It's the thing I miss most about the South, because she would say, ooh, honey, there's a big one coming in, sit on the porch with me and let's watch it come in. And she loved the lightning and she loved the thunder and she loved to watch it all change. Every time I put my head on the pillow at night, I think about my mom, this small town girl who had big dreams and who fought really hard every day for her happiness. So inspired by my mom's insistence that I tell her story and use it, we did that. Our family and I created in 2002 Leeza's Place, a place for caregivers. And I hope that if you haven't already, you'll have a chance to look at our brochures that are back there and to meet Stephanie Elkins, who is here, our care advocate. Stephanie, say hi. And I want you to know about what we do, because we're here to support families who are on the path, who are navigating through the very difficult journey of someone being chronically ill or sick in their families. And I was inspired by what we wish we'd had. And so that's what we created in the world, these living room settings, this safe place where we can say, we're going to get you connected. We're going to coach you. We're going to help you find the resources that you need. We're going to help you breathe in, knowing that when you exhale, during that next breath, you'll know that you're not alone. So it's free services, offering education and empowerment and energy, because energy is the thing that depletes so quickly. And we have several locations across the country, and we offer up the hugs along with the advice to take your oxygen first. Just like when they give you the lecture on the planes about the oxygen masks, take your oxygen before you help anybody else. Counterintuitive to the people in this room, because you're out there, you know, saving the world and you would do anything for anybody. The best way you can love the person in your life who is sick is for you to nourish yourself first, mind, body, soul, spirit. Because of compassion fatigue, people like us who are the caregivers are at great risk for all those stress-related disorders that are out there. And they're just standing in the wings like prey, you know, waiting to pounce on our bodies and on our soul and on our spirits. So it really is important that you breathe in, take your oxygen first. And that's what we encourage our guests to do at Leeza's Place, and I learned so much from our communities. In just a little bit, you're going to meet two of my very favorites, Susan and Serge are here from our Circle of Care Leeza's Place in Sherman Oaks. And these two represent the kind of strength, the kind of power, the kind of commitment, the kind of love that makes a journey like this successful. And what I admire among a long list is that these two are able to give out love, and they've also allowed themselves to receive the love that people give back to them. So I'm excited for you to meet them in just a little bit. I have come to, this is my favorite picture of my mom, a kiss for luck, isn't it the sweetest? I've come to accept my mom's hideous exit from the planet, but I secretly thought during her decline that there would be some stem cell scientist that was going to come up with a cure, with our miracle. And I believe in my heart of hearts that is on the way. I know that that's coming. Maybe not, certainly not for my mother, not for my grandmother, but maybe for me, maybe for my children, for each of you in this room. It's coming. Our miracle is coming. I love this. Have you heard this Greek proverb? A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. That's what we're doing at CIRM. If not for my mom, my grandmom, for the next generation. If not for each of us, for the ones who are coming after us. It's what I told Larry King. He interviewed me for a special that re-airs tonight, actually, called The Unthinkable, the Alzheimer's Epidemic. That's what I talked to Larry about, the fact that we know we're making progress. If you look at where we have come with cancer, with treatments for HIV, AIDS, and surely stem cells play a role in those diseases. But that's where we have to get to with neurological disease. I have to believe that this will be the decade when we begin to decode and unravel all the mysteries of the brain. This will be the decade when we recognize what starring role stem cells will have in that. Now, this is good news to everybody in this room. Look at this pie chart of the disease areas funded with CIRM. 34% in that pie, neurological disease. But check out how many areas we are touching. It's really impressive, is it not? We touch so many areas, delivering on the promise of Prop 71. So let's just look specifically at that promise. Here it is. This is our mission statement. We pledged to fund research that was not likely to get funded anywhere else. We promised that while we were prioritizing the exploration of human embryonic stem cells, that we weren't going to exclude any good science that would get us quicker to finding those cures, those therapies, the research technologies to relieve human suffering. That's our mission. I'm very proud that we are delivering on that mission every day. And here's how. Check out the milestones. And this is just a glimpse, all right? Here's how we're spending our money. So far, $1.18 billion awarded of the $3 billion to 404 research facilities, to research grants and facilities grants at 55 California institutions. Clinical trials are happening, papers are being published like crazy. It's just a hub. We've become a hub, like the Mecca for stem cell science. Over 100 top stem cell scientists relocating to California. And it was announced just this week that we have given $25 million for a phase 1 trial for patients with spinal cord injury. Now, this is the first clinical trial based on cells derived from human embryonic stem cells approved by the FDA. CIRM plays a major role in pushing this forward with this $25 million. History is being made. Patients are being heroic. And we all know that the company running that, the Geron company, is hoping what we're all hoping, that we're going to get a miracle. And we have to keep focused on that. We know how science works. We know that dead ends are not really dead ends. That's information we need to go over here. And we know that the path for every great discovery has been going down a path that didn't get us there. So we have to recognize that we are still a very young business when it comes to stem cell science. And look, we know that we're pursuing this global goal at a time when our nation and our state is hurting for money. That is a reality that is not lost on any of us at CIRM. But check this out. We are paying our own way and then some, generating more than $200 million in new tax revenues that will exceed the debt service on the bonds at least through 2012. Look at this, 25,000 job years of new employment. And these are just the benefits that happen before we get the benefits of the therapies. And that's all just waiting in the wings, ready to come on and take center stage. I find all of this to be breathtaking. And at the meetings, I sometimes get really giddy with the excitement of being able to look around the room and look at those people and know that, wow, these are the people that are responsible for getting the money into the hands of the people who will change the future. It's hard not to feel a tingling all the way down to your toes every time that happens. And I think about my mom and what would she say? Because, you know, our parents are never done parenting us. We as moms will never be done. And so I hear my mom's voice all the time, and I know my mom would be saying to me, okay, be grounded, be grateful, be aware of what you have to contribute, and offer it up graciously. And that's what I try to do as I find my part on the CIRM board and with our passionate work that we do at Leeza's Place. What you and I are doing here today is planting the trees. We're planting the seedlings. We may never see them flower and bloom, although I think we might. We may never sit in the shade of those trees, but we plant and we dig and we water and we wait. Impatiently, but we wait. Most of you are the same as me. You are husbands and wives and sons and daughters, and you are passionate people here who are living a life of purpose, trying to figure out how you can make a difference, how you can learn enough and endure enough and kick and scream loud enough to make sure that we get it done together. And I say this to you as I close today. The voters in 2004 had amazing wisdom at ushering in this new era of change. We believed that we could do more. We believed that those miraculous things called stem cells could only find their way to their destiny if we put all those things into motion. And we did that. And the good people at CIRM are committed to carrying out that mandate with the help of each of you, with the help of the members in your organizations, with the help of the volunteers with whom you work, with the help of your family and friends. And every time you tell the story, we get bigger and stronger, and our army of change becomes much more effective. I think this is our moment. If we can find Osama bin Laden, we can find cures for these diseases. Thank you for inviting me today. Thank you for the question about Leeza's Place. We realized that each of us in our family had a different reaction to devastating news. We all bring to the news our inherent skill sets, right? I got over busy, as I told you. My sister got depressed. My brother went into denial. My dad started drinking too much. And we all had just kind of gone over to our corners to lick our wounds. That's the danger. When something as devastating as a disease that will take a life breaks into your world, we tend to isolate. We want to throw the covers up over our head and just pretend it's not happening. It takes a lot to get to where you are. It takes a lot to become an advocate. It takes a lot to show up and stand up. Because in the beginning, it's frightening and frustrating, and you feel helpless. So we opened Leeza's Place, which is just like coming into a living room at home, and you'll find someone as lovely as Stephanie and her counterparts across the country. And whether it's a wife with cancer or a father with Parkinson's or a child with diabetes or Alzheimer's disease, we work with a lot of families with neurological disease. We're there to help you get through it. Because we realize that the caregivers are the ones who are making a lot of the decisions and don't have a lot of the answers and don't have the support. And many times the caregivers are sicker than the diagnosed loved ones. Many times they are failing faster than the ones that they are taking care of. And so our job and our pleasure is to hold hands with you and to help you find what you need. Sometimes people don't know what they need. Sometimes they need a diagnosis. They need to find out about how to manage their finances. They need a support group. They just need to get away. They need to be given permission to not be effective that day, to not be on the case that day. They need to be given permission to fail and to know that you're going to stumble. So that's what we do, and we do it in a number of ways with free programs, everything from Reiki and art therapy, scrapbooking. We have support groups, we have exercise groups. It's a dynamic community, and depending upon around this area, we have a location at Olympia Hospital in Los Angeles, and we have our Circle of Care at Leeza's Place in Sherman Oaks. But you'll find us at leezasplace.org.
Do you have one of those up in Contra Costa County or by San Francisco?
We do not. If any of you would like to help us find the support to open Leeza's Place, that would be great. Doesn't take much. We just need, a couple thousand square feet, and that's it. We've got the programs, we've got the people ready to go. There are so many people who are now coming out of the dark when there's a diagnosis. The stigmatization is getting better. And so that means more people are going to need more services than ever before. So we feel like we're well poised at Leeza's Place. And our portal was neurological disease with my mom, my grandmom's Alzheimer's. And then we realized a few years into it that if you're dealing with chronic illness or disease, you're dealing with the same thing no matter what the name of that disease is. And so we put a big old blanket around any of those caregivers. Peter, please talk. We'd just love to hear you talk. Should I be getting the mic to you? Yes, I should. Oh, but I could leave this mic.
Leeza, I think CIRM has spent about 1.2 billion now, has about another 2/3 of the money left, and about another 5 or 6 years, I think, to go. What will happen at the end of that? What's your hope for that? Because I think while people feel there's an urgency to get to cures, we also have to do things safely. And as you said, we're getting to the clinic with the spinal cord. What's your hope for after CIRM comes to an end?
Well, my real hope, and this is so way out of my payload to be even answering, my real hope is that the core mission of CIRM doesn't ever have to come to an end. That we find some revolutionary way and some innovative way to continue this incredible work with a device that does not encumber us financially. My hope is what all of your hope is, that we have begun to identify the building blocks, that we have begun to find and we're funding the basic science and the technologies, and as you know, we're using this approach to really get us to that end goal. And I believe, because I see it already, that we will have small victories, we'll have some that will be big heralded victories, but at the end of this, I know there will be groups like ours all gathering together to report back to everyone who voted for Prop 71 on how victorious we have been. And will that be a cure? Will that be a vaccine? Will it be, like Salk with polio? I think it may well be. But what I think is that we will continue to have the brightest and the best coming to California. We will continue to see our state lead globally in this field. We will continue to collaborate with partners all across the planet. We will continue to see tax benefits to the state and incredible facilities like this where we put people together in the same room that might not otherwise collaborate, and that those connections are the things that will make a difference. And without Prop 71, without CIRM, all of the changes that began to put those things in place would have never happened. So it's really a phenomenal credit to everyone here. I have questions for each of you. Did most of you know each other today? No. So you're meeting different people from different groups. That's fantastic. Do you feel even now that part of the reason you came was you want to kind of own this base of education, this sense of purpose, and you want to take it back out to your communities? Please say yes. That's what we need. That's what we need. This stuff can be very off-putting, it can be very intimidating, it can seem very confusing. We've broken it down. We want what's in that mission statement. We want to alleviate human suffering. It's as simple as that, and I hope that you will be the messenger that will take that out to the people that you work with, to your family and to your communities, and build more followers. When you go to our homepage at CIRM, you'll see how many people are exploring what we're doing. Incredible visitors to our site that are seeing our videos, that are following us on Twitter, that are checking us out on Facebook. There are a lot of postings there within the disease groups. Don Gibbons and his team and Lorraine and Chris have incredible materials for each of you. Would love to work with each of you to help make your journeys back into your neighborhoods as successful as it can possibly be. That's what we're here for, and they've just done such a beautiful job, I think, with the resources at CIRM to make that happen. Don's got great pictures too. You didn't take them yourself, but they're great pictures.
Thank you very much, Lisa. I think we should all thank Lisa for